Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with All Angles here on ENCA. My name is Cindy Mabi. Now, the world of social media has exploded with the rise of influencers on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and X. And these platforms operate on an algorithm that prioritizes content with high engagement rates. But there's a growing concern that influencers are not always honest with their followers. And in order to maintain their image, some make untrue claims about their qualifications and lifestyle. And let's find out why this phenomenon is with us is the Ditshego Media CEO, Tebogo Ditshego. Tebogo, always a privilege and a pleasure to have you, and especially as an expert, not only in business, but on social media, and was a PRISA as well. Now you're working with the South African Young Graduates Network.
Yes.
What is it about this platform that is so alluring to influencers or young people to want to embellish their character?
Well, when great ambition is not founded on great work ethic and integrity, that's where you get a lot of corruption and fraud. And this is what we are now seeing, where people are looking for shortcuts to the top. And not only are they robbing themselves of future opportunities if they do get caught, but they are robbing people who have worked hard to get to where they are. And I think another thing is that people are looking for instant gratification. They're looking for likes, but other people actually use this to get opportunities in the corporate world. You have a lot of people whose qualifications have not been properly vetted, and they're in those institutions and they find their way in. And once they're in, it's difficult for them to get out once they've built certain relationships.
So is it a culture of impunity in the sense that you think you may get away with it because there aren't those stringent processes of verifying and ensuring that you actually go to the institution where the person or the alma mater where they claim to have gotten their qualifications from?
I think it's in terms of misplaced confidence, where you are overconfident in your ability to get away with something. And that happens a lot in the corporate world, where you believe that your actions will not have consequences. And now they are seeing it, because if you look at previously, we don't have a lot of data in terms of people who have been caught on social media, with fake qualifications. It is only now that this is now being uncovered.
Yes, but I think where others have learned the hard lesson was in what it is that you can say in your personal capacity versus whichever organization you're working for, without necessarily naming names. But, people have lost their careers. They had been fired, and there was some rebuke, not only publicly, but also professionally.
So if you look at the consequences of someone who is using fake qualifications, we just have to go to the late President Nelson Mandela's memorial service at FNB Stadium, where you had an interpreter who was not qualified. And he robbed, people with who are visually impaired. He robbed them, actually, who have hearing issues, of an opportunity to enjoy the memorial service. But it even gets worse. If you are a doctor, and you've got a fake doctor on social media prescribing, illegitimate, medicines to certain people, that can have grave consequences where your loved ones could be in danger.
So where does the responsibility lie then in holding people accountable, especially on a social media platform?
Well, I think it has to start from the family and go into the community. Look at what your family is doing on social media. The way we bring up our children, we need to look at them and say, no, this is right, this is not right. If you've got brothers and siblings within your family, you need to look at what they're doing on social media and give them guidance. I think also, personal accountability is important, but we need to build a generation of young people, with work ethic and who work for their qualifications and don't look for shortcuts.
Yeah, I want to go back maybe with the procurement of services, supply chain management and procedures. You highlighted with the late President Nelson Mandela's funeral. Not only was this a reputational risk and a huge embarrassment for the country, but for the mere fact that somebody who's not qualified was then appointed, to interpret at the time when Barack Obama is on stage. So, I even get goosebumps of how embarrassing that moment was. The accountability in that value chain surely also lies with not only the organizers, but whoever had proposed a particular service provider?
Yeah, there's a qualification verification agency which claims that 1 in 3 qualifications are falsified. Some of them are falsified entirely and others are just blown out of proportion. And if that's the level of falsification, it might also go into the experience. You can just imagine how people have falsified their experience. And that actually plays a major role in you not finding the right people for the job. And it actually costs a lot more when you find the wrong person for the job, especially if you haven't done your due diligence, then it does cost for you to do due diligence before you hire them.
All right, so what if you have an international qualifications that is not necessarily recognized by the Standards Qualification, SA Qualifications Authority? Can you still display that on your resume, albeit that it's not recognizable locally?
Well, it depends. You can display it in the context that you do have the qualification, but if you want to apply for a job here, you need to make sure that it is accredited and you have the requisite accreditation for that particular job and that field of study.
Yeah, and the impact of one's actions, obviously, it's a domino effect. You might think it's just for your own instant gratification or for status or whatever it is that people do these things. Dr. Lani, Matthew Lani, I think in a strange way, there was also part of commentators saying, we want to believe him because we want to dispel the myth that there isn't black excellence or young achievers who are from a previously disadvantaged community. He is just the dream that our ancestors had been hoping for. And then it turns out that, it's all lies. That also makes us distrust a lot in that whole idea of excellence, because there are some who are hell-bent on perpetuating that myth.
Yeah, and we shouldn't allow it to affect an entire race, that an individual's decision to be fraudulent all of a sudden means that we are all fraudulent. I mean, every single quarter, we have thousands of graduates who are graduating and doing great things. And a lot of the research that they do are on topics that are not given enough, spotlight. And they've discovered a lot of things that we're not talking about on a day-to-day basis. So I think we also need to be a bit more balanced. I think we put too much spotlight in people who have not followed the right procedures. But there's so many people who are doing great things that I think also deserve the spotlight. Yeah,
and also success is quiet at times, albeit that it leaves a trail, but it's not loud, as we see on social media. So your advice as we wrap up, what it is that impressionable, maybe young people would see as an influencer, even that term alone, what makes somebody an influencer?
Well, there is no shortcut, to your ambitions and your dreams. If it's a shortcut, then it's too good to be true. It takes a lot of hard work for you to get, to where you need to be in life. You need a lot of support from other people. So do it honestly. Sometimes you're not comfortable mentioning certain things about yourself, especially if they could be deemed to be negative, because you don't trust the recipient, that they will handle the information responsibly. But how they handle the information is out of your control. Just be authentic, be real, be yourself, and express yourself accordingly and have integrity.
Yeah, and in the case of Dr., and I keep calling him the pseudo-Dr. Lani, do you think it's nature versus nurture? In other words, is maybe genetic? We don't know. Obviously, there hasn't been an evaluation psychologically. Or the environment is such that people feel under pressure to just assume a title. Tomorrow, I'm Advocate Sindi Mabi because, I can get away with it on social media.
No, I think personal responsibility is at the top. There are people with psychological issues, which would mean that it's nature in that regard. But I think also, to a certain degree, if you look at nurture, there is a bit of peer pressure, but if you have the right ethics, you have integrity, these are not things that you would consider. You would go through what it takes to succeed, regardless of the obstacles.
Yeah, really, really agree with you. Always a pleasure. Good to see you. We're speaking to Ditshego Media CEO Tebogo Ditshego about just what's going on social media with people embellishing not only their qualifications, but really even assuming a fake qualifications and professions as well. You can continue the chat with us on social media.